Hello and welcome to the third and final workshop for writing fiction for magazines as part of the Young Voices project for the Township Sun. We're just going to jump right in because today is all about the endings and how to end that short story. So I will just share the screen. Here we go. So this is a summary of the workshop that was held on the 16th of November, writing fiction for magazines. What we're going to look at today, endings. And also things to avoid. So endings, I know I've said this. I've said this at every single workshop. I went, oh, the opening's so important. And then I went, oh, the middle, so important. And now I'm going, oh, the ending's so important. But it is, the endings are really important. They are the bit of the story that your readers are going to remember, days, weeks, months later. So it's really important to get it right and to get a proper ending with a bang, something that leaves an impression with your readers. It's also a really good idea to read how other people have done it. So there are lots of short stories out there. Go and read them. Find out what other people did. How did they end it? Did it work? Did it not work? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Why? Think about why it worked, why it didn't, and then you can apply that to your own story. So things to ask yourself when you're getting the ending together. Does it bring everything together? Is the end satisfactory? Does it give meaning to the whole piece? Have you tied up all the loose ends? Don't hint at things or start threads in the short story that you haven't necessarily addressed. So make sure you've addressed all the ones that you want to address. All the important ones have been summed up, have come to an ending. And the reader has an answer for those. Things to avoid. Okay, so before we look at endings, how not to do it. So stories that stop rather than end. You have the climax, but you do need a little bit after the climax just to sort of sum up, to show the character arc, to show how these events have impacted your main character. If it just stops either in the middle of the action or it stops and the reader is left going, wait, what? It's not very satisfactory ending for the reader. So make sure that you have a sense of resolution at the end. Over the top endings. So you absolutely do, depending on what kind of story that you're writing, but you perhaps really do want a very melodramatic, very high impact ending, but you just need to make sure that it's not too over the top. So there is a really fine line, and it's very difficult in short stories, as well as in lots of other types of writing, to tread this fine line. There are a lot of fine lines you'll find in writing, but this is one of them. So you want it melodramatic, but you don't want it so melodramatic and so over the top that the reader's just like, no. So think about that when you're doing your ending, your high impact ending. Too much resolution. So you have the climax, you have a big event that has happened, it's all come together in a big climax. Then in a short story, as I was saying, you do want a bit of resolution in the end. You want to see how this has impacted the character, but you don't want too much. Again, it's a fine line. It's one of these fine lines. In novels and longer pieces of work, you have longer to give more of a resolution. In a short story, you're up against that word count, so you don't have a lot of words to do that resolution. If you have done too much resolution, it lessens the impact of the climax. So think about it. You want a very focused piece of work. You don't want it to go on and on and on, especially with a short story. Okay, so 6 possible ways to end your story. So we're going to look at a more big picture way, and then we're going to look at specifically more of a sort of micro, really the last couple of lines, what should they include? So when we're looking at the macro version of your ending, so the big picture, there are a few more, but there are 6 main ways to end a story. So you have the resolved ending. So this is everything's tied up. So all loose ends are tied up, all plot lines, all character questions, they're all answered. The reader knows everything, absolutely everything. It works well in mysteries because the reader finds out who did it, why and how. Don't think that this means that it's happily resolved just because they know what happened and how and why. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a happy ending. The unresolved ending, I would recommend you veer away from that. In short stories, it can be very unsatisfactory for the reader because they're left not having a clue what happened or what the impact is. Some readers like it because they get to imagine, they get to guess, they get to fill in the details for themselves, and they get to end the story story for themselves. But a lot of readers find it very frustrating. It's not as popular in short stories, but it does work well if you're doing a serial or series. So it depends. Most short stories are a complete story, a start, a middle, and the end. If you have a relationship with a magazine and they have said, oh, we would like a serial, you know, we would like to follow a character over a number of issues, then that's something to think about. And then that comes in with the cliffhanger ending and things like that. But majority of magazines just want a complete story in itself, so they don't want a serial. So yeah, so unresolved endings, I would advise steer away from. The implied ending, so theirs are not as unpopular as the unresolved ending. This is where what happens in the end, it's not explicitly stated like the resolved ending. The writer does hold back some information, but they do leave hints. So they do sort of imply. So it is easy for the reader to guess and to think, okay, so this is where it's going to end up, and this is what's happened after. So the reader is left thinking, oh, did she? Didn't she? Oh, is he alive? Is he dead? Oh my goodness. They might be thinking, is the narrator reliable? Are they telling the truth? So it can work quite well. The twist. Ooh, I do like the twist. It used to be very, very popular with short stories. It's not so much now. This is where you have the unexpected ending. Something happens at the very end that makes the whole rest of the story sort of turn on its head. And the reader thinks, oh, I did not see that coming. So perhaps a hero becomes a villain. Perhaps a character that you had thought to be dead is actually alive. And what does this mean for the rest of the story? I do like the twist when you get to the end and you have the twist, and then it makes you think about the events that have happened in the short story and you see them in a new light. So if it's done well, twist can be very, very effective and have a very powerful ending that readers find very memorable. It's quite hard to do though, and it's quite hard to pull off. And as I said, they're not as popular now in short stories as they used to be. The tie back. So this is where the story begins and ends in exactly the same way. So the ending, how the story ends, is actually where you start. You have your opening. That's the opening of the story. And then the writer goes back and fills in the blanks of how the characters got to this point. And then at the very end, the ending is the ending again. That makes sense. So it all ties back. It's called a tie back. It can be very effective if done. The crystal ball. Ooh. So this is where you end the story by explaining what happens to your characters years after the events in the story. So if you think Harry Potter, the final Harry Potter book ended with Harry Potter and Ginny as adults, and they were putting their children onto the train. So that was a crystal ball ending. In novels, they tend to use sort of an epilogue for it. In short stories, it just shows the impact, how these events have impacted these characters, not just short term, but long term. So years later, it's still having an impact. It's changed them in some way. Okay, so a writing exercise. I want you to write, and I don't want you to write it all out. I just outline, so bullet points, at least 2 different endings for your story. And the purpose of this exercise is, 1, for you to have fun with it and to enjoy it, just have a play with the different endings and the different possibilities. But 2, I want you to realize that sometimes as writers, we can put blinkers on when we're writing a story, and we're very much, this is the story and this is where it's going and this is what's going to happen. And we're very, very blinkered. And sometimes it can be really good and really fun, and it makes for a better story sometimes if you just sit back, take a breath, look around, and see what else is out there in terms of options for endings. So sometimes it's like, yeah, there are different options, but they're all rubbish. And you put the blinkers back on and you sit down and you write the story that you always wanted to write. But sometimes you take the blinkers off and you go, actually, that ending over there is a lot more fun. It's a lot more effective. It works a lot better. So I'm going to go with that one. So as I said, I just want you to try out spend 10-15 minutes, try out different endings, at least 2 different endings, if not more. Just have a play with it. So now we have looked at sort of the big picture, how to end it. But now I just want to look very briefly at 4 different options for your final sentences. So very, very specific. Let's drill down into the final couple of sentences and how it should end the short story. So there are different ways to end it, and you need to think which works best for your story. And it often, you don't know until you've written the story. So you might decide at the beginning, oh, I'm going to end it with a line of description, but by the end of it, you can go, oh no, dialogue is better and fits it better and fits with these characters and suits them. So I want you to try it out. We're going to look very briefly, as I said, at four different options, but bear in mind that it could be only until you have written all of it that you come up, you find the proper answer, which option works best for your story. So the different options are a line of description. So it can be very poignant, it can leave a lasting impression. Secondly, a character's action. So this is where you show rather than tell the character arc, the change, how that character has been affected by the events in the story. So if your character does something at the end that at the start they really wouldn't have done, that shows that character journey, doesn't it? So conversely, and this is something to bear in mind as well, you can show that a character has not changed despite lots of opportunities to do so, to learn, to grow, to understand something. They've had all these opportunities in the story and yet they still haven't taken it. And that tells you a lot about that character and can be very effective. Okay, so thirdly, a line of dialogue. It is not solely for twist endings. It can work really good in a twist ending though. But other types of endings or a line of dialogue can work very well. And as I said, it can turn the whole story on its head. Finally, a character's internal thought or feeling. So again, this is going to leave a lasting impression, can bring the whole piece together and leaves a hint about what might happen after. So I've given you some examples on the PowerPoint. If I go back to the one before. So these are not necessarily short stories, but they are very good examples of different ways to end those final lines of your short story. So again, I'd just like you to spend 10-15 minutes. I want you to try it out. I want you to play. I want you to have fun. I want you to try things that you didn't think you were going to try or you don't think are going to fit this story. I want you to try it. Just give it a go and try the different options for the last couple of lines and see what you come up with. So you have now written your story, you have a middle, so you have an opening, you have a middle, you have the end. What do you do now? It is not over, I'm afraid. Now you edit. There is no such thing as a perfect first draft. You will need to edit it in some way. Often as well, the best type of writing comes out when you're not worried about writing a perfect first draft. So I don't want you to get hung up on, oh, I need to find the perfect word. I need to find the right word for this sentence. And then you spend half an hour trying to come up with the right word, the one that will really fit this sentence. I want you to just relax, just ignore it. It doesn't matter. This first draft, it doesn't matter. There is no pressure. You just write and have fun. See where it takes you. Enjoy the process. So don't pay attention to the grammar, the dialogue, the awkward transition, the really flat character. Just write the story and have fun with it. Then at the end, you can go back and edit and you can fix all these issues with it. So bear that in mind. You need to edit, but try and enjoy the process. A good tip here is to read it aloud, either to yourself or to someone else. Often when you read it aloud, it is clear some of the sections or some of the wording or some of the dialogue sometimes that while it works well when you're reading it in your head, when you read it out loud, it becomes clunky and it's very obvious that, oh no, that doesn't work. So it can be a really good exercise to read your story aloud. Double duty sentences. So this is especially important for short story writing. So some writers really insist that every sentence, because of the word count, every sentence has to work double. They have to be there on two different layers. They can't just be a line of description. It should also contribute to the mood or the tone or the theme of the story. For dialogue, it shouldn't just provide information, it should also reveal character or theme. So this is what we mean by double duty sentences. They work, each sentence should work on at least two levels and add layers to your short story. It can be very difficult to do, but it is definitely worth going through your short story and just seeing, you know, if I change this word or these couple of words, does that mean that this sentence then it works on two different levels? Give it a go, see what you think. Don't try for every single sentence, but definitely do an edit where you're looking at double duty sentences and how you can add layers to your work because of the short word count. This can be very effective. So I think we're done. You just need to go away and write it now. We've talked about the opening, we've talked about the middle, and not to have a soggy middle and things to include. We've talked about the endings, different options for your endings. So now, so excited, go away, have fun with it, try it out, write your short stories. Honestly, I cannot wait to read them. I think they're going to be absolutely fabulous. So for the Young Voices project, do have a new submission date. So it has been put back to February the 28th. So you have longer. You can write more than one short story. Give it a go. You can submit more than one short story. See, I just want you to have fun. I just want you to have fun with it. So try it out. If it's not working, try something else out and then go back to the first one. See where it takes you. So maximum length, 1,200 words. All the details for how to submit are on the Township Sun website. There is a special page for the Young Voices project that has all the information that you need about how to submit, where to submit, when to submit. Yes, so that's just information that I've taken from there. But you can find all of this information on the website. So yes, that's it. As I said, I'm so excited to read your short stories. If you have any questions, just email me. That's what I'm here for. And yeah, happy writing. Thanks very much. Bye.